Cover up. The year was 1994. It was also the year of chaos and violent protests by the black community over what they saw as a hatred against the black race. Mayhem broke out in the town when a police officer shot a black young man to death. The young man, Eric, was returning from a house fellowship that was held in the home of one of his mates in high school. They took out turns to host the others in their homes every first Wednesday of the month. Seated beside him was Natasha, his girlfriend. They were arguing over the correct interpretation of one of the scriptures explained by Jeff during the meeting, when a whoop-whoop sound startled them and blue lights flashed in the rearview mirror of Eric's car. Officer approached the driver's door and tapped the window. Eric reached for the door handle to roll it down. The officer beamed his flashlight to their faces and asked for license, registration, and proof of insurance. Eric produced all of those, but the officer won't budge. "Your tail light is broken," the officer said. "Are you going to give me a ticket for that?" "Young man, get out of the car." Eric hesitated, but Natasha's cold stare urged him to obey. The officer quickly grabbed him and turned him roughly against the car while he searched him all through. "You ain't gonna find nothing on me," Eric spoke out. After the search, the officer asked him to stay still while he went back to his patrol car. It was when Eric, with his back to the officer, reached into the car through the driver's side to touch Natasha's face and asked her to calm down, that the first shot rang out. A second followed. Then there was Eric's body lying in the pool of his blood beside his car. The violent protests that followed the incident saw to the death of no fewer than 12 people in the first week, and many others injured too as a result of clashes between the police, the white community, and the black residents. The police chief of this town by the lakeside decided he had seen enough and was ready to resign his job. With a population that was slightly above 12,000. Quakerville's police chief had made a total of 26 appearances on the ABC and CNN for the blood-curdling tales that have been coming out from there in the first 6 months of the year. In September, 3 persons were found dead in very strange circumstances, and all of the bodies were deposited in the lake, only to be discovered days after. Sadly, all of the victims of this gruesome murder were black teenage females. It was in the heat of that investigation that Officer West Maddox filed for a resignation. But on that Monday morning, as he got dressed to drive down to the office, he got a call that forced him to shelve his plans for a little while. The corpse of a 16-year-old Lori was found in the garden beside the town's only public high school, Hillside High, Quakerville. She must have been killed only a night before. Beside her was the baseball bat that was used to batter her head until she died. Even her face was now almost unrecognizable. The blood had caked on the bat, and flies had a field day buzzing around it and the corpse. Incidentally, Officer Maddox's girls attended that same school. The call Officer Maddox received earlier on the morning of the 21st of September reminded him of the vow he made when he joined the police force 31 years ago. It was a vow to protect the citizens at all times. Well known as an upstanding and well-respected man who is determined to get to the bottom of every case as thoroughly as he could, he resolved that this was a case he must join the Federal Bureau of Investigation to unravel. It appeared to be one of those murders to be attributed to the whites' hatred of blacks. When the call came in that morning, it was the mother of the deceased who was asking him to do all he can to bring justice to the killer of her only daughter, Sophia. Being a father of 2 teenage daughters, he imagined how he would feel if it was Tricia or Fiona who was murdered. Little did he know that was going to be the most terrifying case of his career. Before he got to the scene of the crime, the FBI were there. Agent Maya Tripp and his men have already cordoned off the garden and were gathering all the evidences they could find. Shortly afterwards, the ambulance arrived to move the corpse to the morgue. Officer Maddox left some of his men in the area to go to the office. That was when he got another call. This time around, it was from Agent Lake Copper. He met Agent Copper 2 years ago during an investigation in a crime scene where a man was stabbed to death in his house by his wife's boyfriend. I needed to call you to inform you about the result of our forensic tests. He paused. You wouldn't believe what we found. Officer Maddox was already losing his patience. Please go ahead and tell me. The fingerprints on the weapon used on the victim belongs to a Tricia Maddox. Sounds familiar. What did he just say? The police chief didn't seem to believe what he heard. Is this some form of joke? I think your daughter is the prime suspect of this crime. I think I got to go. Agent Copper ended the call, leaving Officer Maddox lost in thought. This is unbelievable. A prank? Instead of going to the office, he decided to turn right on the road leading to his home. He got home just in time to meet Agent Tripp and the other agents driving into his home. He quickly intercepted them as they made to enter the house. Can we talk? Please. He directed his question to Agent Copper. I'm sorry, Officer Maddox, but we've got to do our job. I know you must have been hinted about what we are dealing with. I understand. You also need to understand that this is my daughter we are talking about. At least may I talk to her before you arrest her. Officer Maddox has been one of the most finest and longest serving police chiefs in Quakerville and has earned the respect of almost every inhabitant of the town, black and white alike. So, it was very difficult for Agent Copper to turn down his request. He agreed to return the next morning, while also keeping the identity of the suspect a secret. That afternoon, Tricia confessed to her father. I don't know what came over me. I know I hated Sophia because I saw her hanging out with Scott, but I never intended to hit her. I guess it was the influence of the few drinks I had with my friends. Scott was her boyfriend who had recently jilted her because she was too jealous. Officer Maddox was quite appalled that his daughter's jealousy led her to kill a black girl in cold blood in the midst of what was happening in their town. He was more angered by the fact that his 17-year-old daughter had started drinking without his knowledge. Because of his work, he has never really had to spend time with them. At this point, he is terrified that the truth will expose his daughter and destroy his family. If he quits now, he will throw away a lifetime of international integrity and put at risk the town he loves as home. And because of this was a murder committed by a white girl on a black victim, it was capable of shattering that calm that they have been trying hard to maintain. But if he keeps going with the case, he might just be sacrificing his daughter's life.